Thank you for coming to my session today on how to jumpstart your Drupal contribution with the Bug Smash initiative. Very quickly, a little bit about me. My name is Pam. I'm based in Noosa in Australia. You might notice I don't have an accent, so I live there, but I'm from the US. I've been working with Drupal for about 13 years, and for the last 7 or so, I've been working for an Australian Drupal agency called Technocrat. And I've been very fortunate throughout those 13 years to have the opportunity to contribute to Drupal in many different ways. And most of the time, it was directly supported by my employers. So that's been a real privilege. And I really can't kind of stress enough how much of a privilege it is to be able to give back and get paid for it. I've been on the core committer team as a facilitator since 2019. And then since June, I've also been serving as the product owner for Starshot/Drupal CMS, but I'm not here to talk about that today, unfortunately. I'm here to talk about Bug Smash. So Bug Smash is a community-driven initiative to reduce the number of open bugs in Drupal core. And unlike other initiatives, this one will never be finished. So we're always looking for new contributors. So Drupal core has a lot of bugs. This is a newsflash, right? As of Sunday, there were 5,653 open bugs against Drupal 11, which is because we fixed bugs in the latest version and then backport as appropriate. So why have I traveled 30 hours to tell you that Drupal core has a lot of bugs? I'm sure this is a familiar sight for many of you, a composer file full of patches. And as depressing as this is actually the best case scenario because it means there's a fix available. So worst case, you find a bug and there's no fix. Best case, you find the bug and there's a patch. But maintaining those patches is a nightmare. It's a major drain on resources. It's just kind of constantly chasing your tail. There's that aspect on the project work, but then there's also the aspect of keeping the bugs current against core. So we used to have to re-roll patches. Thankfully, we don't have to do that anymore. The merge request workflow has helped out with that a lot, but it's still not ideal to have all of these bugs open, especially if there's a fix for it and it's just missing something small. So back in 2020, one of the core framework managers, Lee Rollins, kind of just was getting really annoyed by this, the constant patch re-rolling and the constant patch maintenance, and he just wanted to do something about it. So he just had this idea to focus some community attention on bugs specifically and keeping the sort of lifetime of the bug open as low as possible. So back in May 2020, he just said, let's do it. He started a Slack channel and we got to work, and the timing proved to be a bit fortuitous because I don't know about many of you, but I didn't have a lot else to do at that time. We don't need to talk about it, but yeah, basically I didn't have a lot to do, so I spent a lot of time online, and I kind of leaped at this opportunity. I thought it was brilliant, and I got involved. I'll talk a little bit about now why I contribute to Bug Smash and why I feel so passionate about it. As I said before, I've contributed in a lot of different ways, but Bug Smash has definitely been one of my favorites, and I'll kind of take you through a few of the reasons why. There are a lot of different ways you can help. It's not just coding, which I'll go through more a little bit later. I've also learned so much through triaging issues and doing manual testing, and I've just learned about systems within Drupal and views features I never knew about, and multilingual is not a hugely popular requirement in Australia, but I learned how to build a multilingual site from start to finish by testing and working on Drupal translation bugs. One of the other cool things is that you can collaborate with other core committers and subsystem maintainers. So it's very active. We have an active Slack with a number of those people who are around and really, really happy to help. I also love that if I have maybe 15 minutes, I can just jump into the issue queue and triage an issue and sort of feel like I've accomplished something. Sometimes it can be hard to find time, and this is a really good way of just kind of jumping in, doing something quickly, and getting out. You can also earn credits towards your company's Drupal certified partner status. I won't go too much into that, but basically you get sort of points for your company. If your company is not already a Drupal certified partner, I would strongly encourage you to look into it. And if they are and you want to bump your level, I think working on Bug Smash is a great way to do that. It's also just a really super supportive community. We've got new contributors all the time, and we've got lots of veteran contributors who have been around since the beginning. And then lastly, it's just really satisfying to fix bugs that are really old. I think when we started, the oldest bugs were in the sort of 20 years old range. Now we're down to 16, so the oldest bug in core is sort of 16, maybe 16 years and a few months old. And then I'll just show you some stats quickly. So when we started this in 2020, there were 7,713 open bugs. And 4.5 years later, there are, again from Sunday, 5,653. So what that means is there are 2,060 fewer bugs in Drupal core than when we started, which I just think is amazing. And how much of this is because of Bug Smash? I mean, obviously there's lots of work happening anyway, but we tag all of the issues that we work on, and we can see that there are 1,044 issues that were fixed, that were worked on by Bug Smash, and 4,379 issues with that tag that were closed for any reason. So that could be because they were duplicates, because they were outdated, or because we couldn't reproduce them. So that's not to say that Bug Smash did all of this work, but someone from the Bug Smash initiative worked on each one of these issues in some way. So, I mean, I just love these stats. I check it every now and again just to kind of see how we're tracking, but I really think it shows the power of the community and also how just one person's idea can lead to really big things. So now I'll get into how you can help. I know this doesn't sound very exciting, but issue triage is one of the most important and valuable things that you can do to help with the Drupal core queue in general, but bugs specifically. So sometimes that's just updating the issue with clear steps to reproduce, which I'll talk about in a little more detail later. Or it could just be writing a clear and concise issue summary. And sometimes simply doing that will lead to the bug getting fixed within days because the problem is clear. Someone can come along and understand what needs to be done. And there are so many people around that just want to help. And if it's clear what's needed, it's much more likely to happen. Another thing we do is things that are filed as bugs but are really just tasks or feature requests. You know, sometimes people think if something doesn't work the way they think it should, it's a bug. It's not. So just switching those from bugs to tasks or feature requests, and then also adjusting the priority, because the critical and major priority, again, people think it's a problem for me, therefore it's critical. That's not true. There are very specific and detailed definitions for issue priority, and those are available on Drupal.org. So there are going to be some QR codes throughout that kind of link to documentation about this. So there's a lot of documentation that Bug Smash has produced about triage itself, and I highly recommend you check it out. So then the last thing is just closing invalid or outdated issues. There's so much time and energy spent, unfortunately, on people filing issues just because something's not working for them. It's not necessarily a bug in Drupal core, but someone has to actually go in, look at it, check it, see whether it can be reproduced, and if not, then close it. This is a decision tree that we created that it's okay if you can't read it, because it's just kind of there in case you want a bit of a guide for how to get started. Like you want to do triage, but you really don't know where to start. This is a great tool. Initially, it's just kind of a helpful little, really if you don't know what you're doing. But I find that the key to good triage is knowing when to move on, because there are issues I can help with and there are issues I can't help with. And if I can't help, better use of my time to just keep it moving. So this is different for everyone, obviously. And you don't necessarily have to be an expert in the subject, but it should be something you know about, or at least you want to learn about. Otherwise, yeah, maybe leave it for someone else. So we also have in these docs some templates for updating issues, because it can be a little bit intimidating if you've never done it before to ask someone for more information or close an issue. It can maybe feel a little bit confronting. So we've got some templates in there that you can copy and paste and use to kind of explain what you're doing. It says, I'm working with the Bug Smash initiative and we're going through old issues, those kinds of things. If you're polite, generally you'll find people are polite back. And if you ever need help, we have a really active Slack channel that there are always people around that are pretty much willing to help. And that applies at all hours of the day, because we have people across the globe in many time zones. And lastly, just on the triage issue, so the way Drupal core credits work, you don't get a credit until an issue is marked as fixed. So the way we've solved that sort of, or the way we've tried to give credit for triage is every fortnight we create an issue for triage. And if you close an issue for some reason other than it being fixed, so if it was a duplicate or if it's outdated or you couldn't reproduce, you can get a credit on that meta issue. So it's only one per fortnight, but still that would add up over a year if you're active. So going a little bit more into this, there are right now 300 issues tagged needs steps to reproduce. So that link will take you to the list. And then this link is kind of a bit more about steps to reproduce themselves. So I know this doesn't sound like a fun way to contribute, but it's so critical because Drupal core bugs need to be reproduced using what we call vanilla Drupal. So Drupal core only. And they should literally start with install Drupal. That's the first step to reproduce this issue. I know that might sound strange, but it at least shows that it's reproducible in core because you're saying, I did this. I installed a fresh instance of Drupal and I reproduced the issue. So if the bug can be reproduced easily by anyone who comes along, as I said before, it's so much more likely to get worked on because it makes sense. And a lot of times people file a bug with some sort of vague context clues. And if you really know the system, like sometimes in views, you can kind of figure out what they meant, but it takes so much more time to figure it out than to just put it in the issue. Even if you think it's so obvious, it might not be obvious to somebody who comes along without context. So the next triage task is needs issue summary update. So there are 592 bugs tagged with needs issue summary update. Part of that is the steps to reproduce. And I know this, again, doesn't sound like that important or glamorous of a task. But, I'd say it maybe also might feel like it's not a technical task. You might think, well, I'm a developer. I don't need to be spending my time on this. But so often you can't summarize the issue unless you understand what's actually going on. So you really often do need that technical expertise. And that's why it's really not a novice task. And that's often why it doesn't happen because the people who have the skills are not allocating the time to this. So the issue summary should include information and context beyond the steps to reproduce. So you describe the problem, put the steps to reproduce, and then it should also include the proposed resolution. So that way, when a reviewer comes along, they can really quickly refer to the issue, see what the issue is, see what the proposed resolution is, and then check that the merge request is actually doing that. There's also the listing the remaining tasks. Not always super important, but it can be if there are a bunch of things that need to happen. Sometimes they might need screenshots or something like that. It's just much easier to review an issue if it has a good summary. And I also think about this in kind of a compounding interest way. Like if it takes you 10 or 15 minutes to read through an issue, read through all the comments, and then update the issue summary, that's saving everyone who comes along after you 10 to 15 minutes as well. And again, makes it much more likely that this will be worked on. And again, if you do this, so if you update the issue summary, if you add screenshots, you most likely will get a credit for that issue. So even though you didn't write the code, even though you don't feel like you maybe directly contributed, the core committers are very conscious of crediting everyone for all types of activities. So this is another great way to, especially if you're a little bit unsure, you don't really want to write code, you don't really want to dive in too deeply, it's a really good way to get started and also just kind of see the way the process works. There are 1,231 bugs tagged with needs tests. So this is the core test gate, which says bug fixes should be accompanied by changes to a test, either modifying an existing test case or adding a new one that demonstrate the bug. So there are many, many bugs out there that have fixes, but they don't have tests, so they can't be committed. So this is a really great opportunity to jump in and learn about, if you're not already familiar with Drupal's automated testing or just automated testing in general, it's a great opportunity to jump in and get support to learn about it. Because if you're willing to help out with these types of tasks, you will absolutely find contributors who will help you. So there's docs in the QR code here. And just generally, most of the core testing is in PHP Unit, and there's also some JavaScript testing with Nightwatch. Support, again, is available in Bugsmash. And you will always find help there. if you're willing to write tests. I mean, honestly, 1,200, when you think about the fact there are 1,200 bugs tagged in these tests, that literally means there are 1,200 bugs with a fix that are not closed because there's no test. And then another thing I think it's worth calling out is just if you're someone that is going to make a bug report, be careful. Like, think about it before you post it. I used to be super keen if I thought I found a bug to kind of be like, oh, look, I found a bug, I'm going to file it. But now I'm like, I don't know, is it really a bug? You know, sometimes something doesn't work on your site, but when you go to test it in vanilla Drupal, it doesn't happen. And so then it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, it's obviously my problem. Also, another thing you can think about is like, is it actually a bug or is it just not working the way I think it should? The other thing you can do is to try to search for a duplicate. So oftentimes if you find something that's like glaringly obviously wrong, it's probably already logged. It can be hard to find those issues, but if you're logging a bug and you're not really sure, what you can always do is say in your issue summary, I searched for a duplicate, but I couldn't find it. And then you might find that someone comes along and there are people in the community that have like encyclopedic knowledge of the issue queue, and they'll just kind of fire off the duplicate and help you out. But at least if you say that you tried, you'll get, you know, I don't think anyone's going to have a problem with that. Then, of course, we can't forget the complete steps to reproduce, starting from install Drupal. I really can't stress this enough. It might seem so obvious, but it's so important. And then again, use the issue summary template. So it has the headings in there when you create a new issue. Don't just delete them. If you don't know what one is, you can put a question mark or something else. You can leave it blank, but don't delete them. That issue summary template is really helpful. And then lastly is just be nice, because I'm sure we've all seen some aggressive tone taken at times in the issue queue. If you take a polite tone, you'll generally get politeness back. And so yeah, when you're creating issues, just think that there are people on the other side of that. Some of the other stuff we do, so we set targets, whether it's issues or areas. We do daily triage, so every day we have 2 randomly selected issues that come up, and someone in the Slack channel will jump on and triage them. We also are, in our last meeting, we just discussed potentially targeting views bugs, so starting from the oldest. And then the 1 is my favorite, because the 1 is the oldest open core issue, which we focus on fixing. So as I mentioned before, this can be so fun because these bugs are so old. And we've got one right now that's 16 years old. That's RTBC, that we're just waiting on getting that committed. And then once that's committed, we'll move on to the next one. If you need a review of an issue, you can jump in the Slack channel and request what we call a review swap. And you post, I need a review, and then someone might ask you for one. And then I also just wanted to call out that the Needs Review Initiative was spawned from Bug Smash. And Needs Review Initiative is just one person, Stephen Musgrave, who realized that there were, I think at one point, maybe 4,500 issues that were in needs review. So that's not just bugs, that's all issues. And that's just not really a workable situation. So he set up a bunch of automation to make sure that the work applied to the current version and got that down to, it's generally below 50 now. So it literally went from 4,000 to below 50, and it's regularly below 50. So it's just incredible to me what one person's idea can generate in the community. And then lastly, just general help is available. So that doesn't mean it's a support channel for any question about Drupal. It should be about working on a Drupal core issue. But there are other channels if you just need general support. But Bug Smash is a really great place to get support if you wanna help us out. So I hope I've convinced you to join us. The best way to do that immediately is by joining the Drupal Slack. If you haven't already, I strongly suggest that you do, not just for Bug Smash, but just for general support. It's just an amazing place to collaborate with people. So we have a channel for Bug Smash. We've got almost 700 members. We're active in there daily. Also, if you're coming to the contribution day, we will try to get a table going, maybe a table or 2. And we'll have some Bug Smash folks available remotely to help out as well. And then, of course, check out our documentation, which I have already linked. But if you're interested in getting started and you're really not sure, I strongly suggest that you look that over and at least kind of give you a starting point, and then jump in the Slack. And you can ping me or just ask a general question. And yeah, we'll be there to help. Then, of course, obviously, the contribution day and the workshops, you should come to those even if you don't want to work on Bug Smash. That's okay. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.